And as everyone gathered their thoughts and yep, Matthew chapter 26, verses 36 through 46. And the thought that I used to expound from was, what is this cup? What is this cup?
You're suffering.
Come on here. Come on here.
I paid attention.
And our points from Sunday, submit to your process, pray about your cup and your process. Come on here, note taker. Absolutely.
The last one was I thirst.
I thirst. Absolutely. Nailed it. So based on what you heard, based on what you experienced. And so here's where I'm aiming for now, just so that you guys can see why Bible studies are now for the past few months, I would say, been more so a deeper dive of what's been preached on Sunday, because Sunday is more of a community message, right? And then Bible studies are definitely very much more intimate. However, I am interested in how we are connecting our personal experiences, our worship experience with the word. So on Sunday, we have corporate worship, Bible study, we have intimate study time together. And I am interested in what we are doing with the word between Sunday and Thursday, and then Thursday to Saturday. So that's the reason why these have been, and it's just more so just a push to keep everyone motivated to be in your word, continuously be in prayer. E-family, God bless you. Faith Impact Church family, love you so much. I'm excited about Bible study tonight. And I am also going to log in so that I can see any questions that you may have. So here we are. Matthew chapter 26, 36. And before I start going, I would love to hear some feedback. And if you have questions, I'd love to start from there and just allow this to be as authentic and as viable as possible. So when I oh, you were revving up.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh,
we got it. Oh, okay. I guess this is go first. At least with me, when I was thinking about, like, literally just now, his disciples, the disciples he took with him, and when after he fell on his face, he was like, "Hold on, wait a minute, let me. What's not? If 1 + 1 is 2, how are we at -4?"
oh my god. Oh my gosh. I should have read over this week.
I'm going back and being like, "Excuse me, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, fine. Since y'all not gonna do what y'all supposed to do, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm just gonna fall on my face, and I'm gonna trust it. And if it be in God's will, then I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do. I may not like it all the time. I may complain just a tad bit, but I'm gonna do it. And I think for me, this is maybe in a little left field. I've been particularly a lot more grateful for being the one who he entrusted to do what I'm supposed to do. And that's weird for me. And it's like without complaint kind of deal. The without complaint deal is where it's at for me. Being grateful that he is intentional with what he wants me to do, and being happy that he chose me to do it, I guess. So I'm falling on my face, but it's okay because I like my nice gold cup with all the jewelry on it. Because he said, "Amaya, I know you like things that sparkle and shine, so we're gonna give you this nice cup. You may not like the wine you taste in that cup, but you might. It's a nice cup though. It's like, oh, I got this nice cup. I guess it's okay. It's okay.
It is. It's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love your takeaways, and I would love to respond to that actually. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, one of one of the interesting things that you shared was he took disciples into the garden, and this garden was the Garden of Gethsemane. And do we remember what Gethsemane, the definition of it? What does it mean? Is the garden of crushing,
Oh,
close, crushing,
it's the same thing. I forgot
crushing,
what it said.
crushed olives, or oil press, oil press. But yes, this is the garden of pressing. And yes, he took some people who were to be skilled in prayer and skilled in standing watch, and he positioned them. And when he went deeper in, as you were sharing, you definitely did an excellent overview. As he stopped going in and he said, "Hey, I want you to stay here and pray, and I'm going a little further in, but I'm taking those two with me." The two that he took further in with him, he said, "I'm going to tell you why I'm here." And he told them about his pain. He said, "You stand here, stand watch, you pray here, and I'm going a little deeper." And then this is where you shared, our Christ fell on his face, fell on his face, and began to pray. You shared that one of your takeaways were, okay, disciples, y'all falling asleep, but I'm still going to do what I'm supposed to do. That's one of your takeaways that you got from the story. I like it. And the reason why I like it is because it tells me your experience with the story. You didn't regurgitate the story the same way I preached it. And I love that, because this is telling me that you've internalized this story. And one thing that you were able to pull away is, I can't be status quo and I can't go with the crowd because the crowd is sleeping right now. And if I am to be praying, then I have to pray whether the crowd is sleeping or praying. And you said, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I love that. I'd also like to point out that when we hear a message of this magnitude, when we hear a message and based on your takeaways and internalizing, I get excited when people can say, this is not blasphemy, but I saw myself in where Jesus was. Now, here is a checkpoint for us. How many of us were the disciples as opposed to Jesus? Because it's easy for us to say, I went into the Garden of Pressing and I took my crew with me and my crew went to sleep on me. But now let's do a real self-evaluation. How many of us are the ones sleeping while others are working, while others are praying? Don't raise your hand. This is not to embarrass anyone. This is self-evaluation. Everybody look straight.
All right.
Everybody look straight. Here's what the word reads. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to the disciples, sit here while I go and pray over there. And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. He went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, saying, oh, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, what? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time, He went away and prayed, saying, "Oh, my Father, if this cup cannot pass away from me unless I drink it, your will be done." And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. So he left them. He went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then he came back to his disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayers are at hand." This passage alone it's heavy. it's weighted. Amaya,
Yes.
with the experience that you shared with taking the approach, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I have another question for you. What is it that you're supposed to be doing?
This sound a little cliche coming out of my mouth.
But if it's yours, it's yours.
It's not whatever he puts on my spirit.
Okay.
Like when I was running a couple of days ago.
Come on here, Ryan.
It took my heart out my chest. I was like running around Mount Trashmore, and it was like I was on the phone with one of my friends, and like we were just talking, and I was like, "Hold on, I might pray," and I was like, "Hold on, wait, I'm gonna just do it," and I did. And mind you, it's not a little busy time in Mount Trashmore. I have my headphones in, people don't know I'm on the phone, but like I'm running around, and I just started praying, and it's like the last quarter mile. And it was just like real deep and intimate. Mind you, people are walking past and they looking at me. I'm looking at them. I'm like, well, you just gonna have to look. And really, I don't want to say pouring out my heart. Let me be for real. Pouring out my heart and really thanking him and being like, you know what, I'm okay, and asking for strength and being like, it's okay if you don't get to me right now, because I know you will. And just like really sitting there and going in. And next thing you know, I was done with my 2 miles, and then life was great. And I was like, dang, I looked down at my phone, and my friend was like, you were praying for quite a while.
I love it.
I was like, it didn't feel like that in my head. And then it was like in that prayer, it was just a whole bunch of random things coming up, whatever was like on my heart. And I was like, I'm so proud of myself because the amount of looks I got, and I was still going 10 toes. I am very proud of myself. Sorry.
So I like that you shared that, because here's where we stand. You said in this moment you kind of, and we're all in this life, the race is not given to the swift, right? The fact that you said, I am here to run, and though people are looking at me, I am here to run. And at some point you finally said, not only will I run, but I am also using this time to pray. I'm using this time to seek God. So not only am I getting my physical strength, I am getting my spiritual strength. And the correlation that you made with the scripture in Matthew 26, verses 36, is again, why am I here? So now let's talk about going back into the garden, the garden of the oil. Let's hear it.
Oh, you want to hear my takeaway, brother?
I thought you said question.
I said crushing.
Oh, the crushing. Absolutely. So we're in a garden of crushing. And the question is, why am I here? Why are we in the garden of crushing? And the obvious would be to be crushed. But what are we going to do while here? Because does the crushing start as soon as you walk in? Is there some kind of conditioning for this crushing?
Right. Preparing, being spiritually prepared.
Very much so. Let's hear your takeaway.
What I particularly have as a takeaway actually is a correlation I just made. If you remember, Pastor, I once told you that I wasn't totally sure why I felt so comfortable doing this, but actually For me, when I go exercise, whether it's running or when I am lifting weights or calisthenics, anything of the nature, that's when I feel the most compelled to put myself or to try to get into the presence of the Lord, to pray, to really just throw myself into my faith. And the correlation that I just made actually is, so, when the Lord is growing you, or should I say grooming? I like that word better. When the Lord is grooming you, He is testing you, He is trying you, He is stretching you, He is breaking you down as He is building you.
Yeah.
And the correlation I just made is that's exactly what happens to our muscles. See, when you exercise, when you go lift weights, when you go run, when you go do anything that strains the muscles, it stresses those muscles, tears them even, so that way they may be rebuilt
Come on.
and be refined,
Come
so
on.
that way the next time they are tested, they can last, withstand even more.
Yes.
So the
I love
correlation
that.
I just came to the realization of is that, wow, I prefer what it is that I am truly the stubborn individual that I am to the core of my being, and the Lord made me as such. And what I mean by that is saying I don't like halfway nothing, Pastor. If I am going to throw myself into a training situation, into a crushing, if you will, I would like to be crushed body and spirit, so that way I can rebuild it. Because if the mind is not trained, then the body cannot. It won't amount. If the body is trained but the mind isn't, then the mind again still suffers. So I want it all. I want it all.
I love your share as well. Here's why.
All right, brother.
Because and I may have some follow-up questions, but I'm going to do my best to not repaint this picture, but see if I can regurgitate what you shared.
Understood, brother. Understood.
So you shared that you enjoy exercising, and that is the time that you really throw yourself into you thrive into being in the presence of God.
Yes.
Because that is where you make your biggest correlation, right? And my question here would be this: you talked about being broken down in this place, and again, we're talking about Gethsemane tonight, right? We're talking about the cup, the pain which comes with exercising, especially when we do it right, and then we're talking about Gethsemane being a place of crushing. My question would be, what are we being crushed for, and who's doing the crushing? Because I heard you say that I like to build myself back up.
You said, what are we
And
being?
so now I want to challenge this question. And more so for growth, right? Not that your answer is wrong, because this is your experience.
Right.
I'm just throwing out some brainstorming, right?
Okay.
So if God placed you in the garden for crushing, whose responsibility is it to rebuild?
I would respond and say, it depends on if He gave you permission. And I think what I mean by that is that it is the Lord's, well, it is my responsibility to discipline myself, so that way I can be instrumental and I can still be used by the Lord. In other words, it's my responsibility to submit to Him. The crushing.
All right, stop right there.
Okay.
Stop right there.
All right.
And I saw a hand. Are you interjecting before I move forward?
I don't know. Sure.
It gotta be right there though. It gotta be right there, because it gotta be spot on.
Do you mean like, because I know sometimes we put ourselves in that garden just because we feel as if we need to be there, when in reality, we're not supposed to. Like, we were supposed to walk the other direction. And a lot of times I feel like we put ourselves, like, we walk into this garden without His permission. And He'd be like, girl, well, you're not even supposed to be there.
All right.
Why are you doing that?
All right. So here's what my response is going to be to this.
Okay.
I like your outlook. I like your view on this.
Okay.
Here's my next challenge, because you're saying it depends on if he gives me permission.
Mhm.
When Jesus got into this garden, what did he do first? He positioned people to pray. When he went further, what did he do? He positioned people to pray again. When he went deeper into this crushing place,
Okay.
what did Jesus do?
Pray.
He prayed. How?
Fell on his face.
He fell on his face.
Yes.
What does that represent?
Submission.
So I ask again,
Okay.
is it your responsibility, or is whose responsibility is it when you are in a garden of crushing to rebuild?
And I would say mine.
Mm-mm.
It's not. Why isn't it?
Because okay, so like you just hold real deal explain.
Pause. Who built you in the first place?
He did.
So how can you rebuild yourself if you didn't build yourself in the first place?
I guess that's what my perspective is.
That's where you.
Because where I see it is he gives you what to rebuild with. But again, maybe my perspective is misguided.
But if he's
And I love the wording. I love the word choice. I love the word choice.
That's why I said
And-
because if he doesn't give me, I can't, because that's where it's wrong, because we build ourselves up to what we see
Mhm.
versus submerging yourself in, I would say, his practices, for lack of better words. If I submerge myself in his practices and I develop my relationship, then what he gives me, which is why I say permission, what he gives me is what I must use to build myself into his image. But again, that's just my word.
All right. So with what you just stated, I'm going to re-preference and then, all right. So here's what I'm going to submit to us, because this is what we're about to talk about. While in this garden, it's our jobs to submit.
Yes.
We submit to the crushing, and we submit to the process.
Okay.
And the process begins with prayer and falling on our face.
Okay.
That is total submission. That is vulnerability to the presence of God. We then start working what he rebuilt in us when we leave the garden. So I like where you are. That's why I said I'm loving the wording.
Okay.
Because it's not as if you're not going to do any work. Oh, you will work.
Right.
However, the first thing we need to work on is submitting to the process. Because what I'm finding is a lot of times we get a vision in our head and we want to crush ourselves. And we crush ourselves according to our own tolerance. We crush ourselves according to our own pain levels.
Sometimes it ain't good enough.
Listen, because I can handle a 4, but don't push me to a 5. And so you know what we do? We condition ourselves to stay at 4. Pain tolerance. You know something else we do? We set up, I pray at this time throughout the day and I pray at that time throughout the day. But when you are in a garden of crushing, you submit to when the Lord tells you to pray, because you realize that in submitting is not about how strong you think you are. And how did I get that? Because Jesus prayed right here saying, if this cup can pass, please let it pass. And again, I ask, what is this cup? He prayed and said, if my pain could pass, please allow me to do without this pain. And the reason why I challenge us with this tonight is because if we are in the Garden of Gethsemane, if we are in the garden of our crushing, we can't try to stage our own pain. How are we really growing? Where do we submit if we're always in charge? Are you really in charge of your process, or do you submit to your process? So I submit to us tonight that in our experiences in this garden of the crushing, that we, without fear, that we, with the minimal understanding that we have, that we would do everything in your words, because I love this, to thrust ourselves into the submission process. The scripture did not say that Jesus laid on his face. It said that he fell on his face. Laying down is comfortable. Falling is a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And at some point, we have to allow ourselves to go beyond our comfort zone and just fall. We fall into trouble, okay? But what about falling into submission? What about falling on our face and making sure that where we fall is right where God wants us? You know what that means? No matter where you position people to pray for you, because that's what we preference this with, right? No matter where you've commissioned people to pray for you, ask people to pray for you. No matter where you've left them, understanding your assignment, as you stated earlier. What are we supposed to do in this garden? We're supposed to be submitting to the process. So in your condition, being that you don't know everything that lies ahead, can you really condition yourself?
No.
I like it. That was good. What other takeaways that we have? What other questions that we have? Before I go to the next place.
When hearing the message and just listening to everything that's being said here now, I think of the song by Jacqueline Carr. I love her. The song get not a pause. Everybody just like, okay,
Yeah,
get
I'm
it
ready.
out. The song is Greater Is Coming. And it actually starts or opens up with speaking about an olive and 3 stages of how the olive is actually crushed
I remember that.
to
Yes.
have its oil flowing. And the words of like after the whole opening and everything, it states that it has to go through the shaking, the beating, and the pressing. And then it says, if it had not been for the shaking, I never would have been ready for the making. If it had not been for the beating, I would have never knew how anointed I would be. If it had not been for the pressing, I wouldn't be able to walk into my destiny. He's preparing me. He's preparing me. He's preparing me for my greater. So when just thinking about being in our individual gardens of Gethsemane, the garden of crushing, we are all, when we go into this place, it's preparing us for greater. And it has to happen when it does happen, how often it happens. It has to happen for us to become greater. Like you said, the strengthening of the muscles, the development, and just using that correlation. I do not go to nobody's gym, baby. I do not understand what that's like, but more power to you guys. All right. Once upon a time in the West, I was just playing. Once upon a time, back in the back days, I did used to have the condition for track and dance and stuff like that. And just remembering what I had to go through. There was never the down period was very, very limited.
Yes.
Like the recovery time is not long. It's like indoor track, outdoor track, dance. Like it was never a long recovery period because you just got to constantly condition your muscles to constantly stay developed to go and stay strong no matter what. So knowing that like there was something that you said in my mind, you know, I be hearing what y'all been saying, I swear I do. It was, can you condition yourself? And then everybody responded collectively no. Like nobody thought twice about how to respond to that. It was no. And I just thought like, no, we can't condition ourselves, but why can't we? Because it's our body. So why can't I condition my own body? And just thinking about that is like, again, because we didn't create our bodies, right? So it doesn't belong to me.
Yeah.
So how do I condition my spiritual man when it does not belong to me? And literally my spiritual man is a detachment of God. I was made in his image. So how do I condition that? I can't. He is my trainer. So I have to have my trainer to condition me. That's why these people get buku money or, you know, at these gyms and stuff like that. And people never actually really unbig their backs or whatever these folks say nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, but, you know, these folks getting paid. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, but at the end of the day, like we go through this only to make ourselves better, whether it be physical, working out and training, or in the spiritual. It's always meant for us to just be better individuals and for us to get to the best version of ourselves. So even like listening to that song and knowing those lyrics, we all go through these situations in our lives for us, like literally the shaking. Like sometimes you really feel like your life is like so unstable. The shaking is necessary. The beating, literally knockout, TKO, Mike Tyson, yeet. Right, pressing, like what you say, baby, I was running and my heart was out in my chest. Baby, gone. The press, it was for real, but in the end, like you're still alive. You know what I'm saying? Like, did you die yet? No. And then you're in your better state. Again, with notes, I ain't ran in a while, but
I love it.
you look good in that shape.
Come on here.
I wanted to add on to that because it's not always comfortable. It's not, and it does feel like, you know, you're being stretched. And I know me personally, like when I think about it, I'd be like, I don't want to do adulthood no more.
Baby, the
I don't
ghettoest
wanna
hood I've
do-
been in.
I don't want to do this anymore. But then, like, I have to remember that, like, I have to trust the process. And then that, you know, and then that turns me, like, into, like, okay, let me just go pray about it. Like, let me just go talk to God. Let me just go, you know, sit down and contemplate on it. And I think a lot of times, like, when you do that and, like, you run to your word instead of, like, running to, like, oh, this is too hard and the crushing is, you know, too much. But if you, like, actually sit there and kind of focus, because when you're in the moment, it's difficult. But if you focus and you fall into your word and, you know, like, you fall on your face, then, like, once you get up, you're like, okay, like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I feel better.
This was all right.
Was I feeling dramatic or what?
Yeah. Was that? Yeah. And I feel
Maybe
like,
it was me. Maybe it was
What's
me.
up?
Just a little bit.
Brother Kelvin, God bless you tonight. Sister Katrina, God bless you. It's so good to see you. King Hicks, it is always a pleasure. Love you, good brother. All right, all right. I want to take us to the next. Point, and I would love for us to expound here. And then we'll go down from here. The second point was pray about your cup and your process. Now, the how Jesus prayed was point number one. And now what he prayed is in point number two. He submitted to the process in point number one. Point number two, he is now talking about the how, or excuse me, it is the what. So Jesus set a parameter with those who were considered to be praying warriors. I'm not going to stay on that too long tonight.
I know you want to.
I really do want to. I want us to be conditioned well tonight.
Yeah. Because it's about us.
I want us to be conditioned well tonight. Jesus started praying about his cup, and as I shared on Sunday, that the biblical prophets did not use cup as in something like this. The biblical prophets used cup as a metaphor for pain, praying about your pain. praying about your sufferings, praying about your divine judgment. That's what your cup was, your divine judgment, your pain, your sufferings. And even to Jesus in this hour, it applied to Jesus as painful death. That's what his cup was. So now I am asking you, when you are in your garden of crushing, what are we doing? Because we now started talking about, Pastor West, it's a blessing to see you, man. We started talking about why we are in this garden. Then we started talking about the conditioning while we're in this garden. So now let's talk about what are we doing while we're here. Because I'm now seeing that part of what we do when we get a little momentum, we get sidetracked. We get a little momentum, we get off topic, we forget that narrow is the way. we forget that. So now I want to talk about what Jesus prayed in this hour. He began to pray about his cup. And he says, Father, if I can do without this suffering, please let me do without it. So here's something that one of my brothers always makes sure that he preferences these statements and say, I'm not going to turn off my feelings. I'm not going to turn off my feelings. My feelings are real. And you know what? I could not agree anymore. I agree with that. Your feelings are real. They really are valid. Let's position these feelings in this moment. Let's position our humanity in this moment. Because if your humanity takes you away from the presence of God, then what? If your humanity, and that's why Jesus began to pray about his cup. He prayed about his cup because he says, I know this is suffering. I know what suffering feels like. This is painful. And if I can stop this cup right now, please let me stop it. But he said, it's not about what I want. It's about what my Father wants. What are we doing when we get to this place where we understand that we are in a crushing process? And after we have fallen on our face or after we have submitted to the process, what are we doing with our time in submitting? I'll tell you what I noticed that some people do in church. We hide behind just doing what the pastor asks. We don't pray about it. Now, granted, we don't got to pray about absolutely, just you should have enough prayer in you that when you hear some things, it should just quicken your spirit. Real talk. However, some of us hide behind, in my crushing, I'm just going to do whatever he asks. I'm just going to do whatever it takes. But what is that? Because bodily exercise can profit a man nothing. If you just do what Pastor David asked, then what? What are we praying about? How are you being conditioned for your purpose? Are you really being crushed if you just turn into a puppet? If you just become a yes person, yeah, Pastor David, that's a great idea. Listen, that idea going to send us all to the parking lot.
I don't know about that one.
Talk to me.
Question.
Let's hear.
When you say, thank you. When you say when we are in the garden, when you're in your garden, what are you doing? Do you mean what are you work? Well, I have a question and a statement, but do you mean what are you working on, or are you asking how are you working on it, or how are you doing what the Lord asked us?
Definitely great question. So let me reposition where I was coming from with that. In this garden
Okay.
of the crushing,
Okay.
my focus on the positioning of this is getting us to understand not only the word surrendering, but how we do it.
Okay.
And so if we're in this garden to be crushed, how do we submit? And what are we doing in our submission? And the thought process is to get us away from physical activity and the human side of this, and then pick up our spiritual approach. Because we're focusing a lot on our humanity, but now this is time to strengthen and condition spirit.
Okay.
Purpose. So the going a little deeper would be, what are you doing spiritually in this garden? Because you're in the garden spiritually. Metaphorically, we're showing up to this garden because it's where we belong. We're talking about this crushing because that is the garden, that is the land that we are in. We're in the land of the crushing in this hour.
Yeah.
While being crushed, while God is making oil out of us, what are we doing? Are we focusing on how we look, or are we focusing on praying and making sure that we are in the presence of God?
Okay. So I guess well, actually, you kind of just answered part of it, because I was going to say what we should be doing is worshiping with choice, because a beautiful process is taking place and you're submitting yourself. And if you understand while you're in the presence what's happening, then that means you have reason for your spiritual choice, so to speak, and remain in that submission point. That being said, is that what all of us do? No. What do I do?
Good, because the question is definitely on us tonight.
What do
Good, because it's definitely on us. God bless you, Pastor Ducksworth. Love you so much, love.
What do? I reflect. I reflect, and whatever I reflect and find, I guess you could say, in lack of better words, I do some soul searching. I put a metaphorical mirror up in the Lord, or should I say, I look at the mirror He shows me in His presence, and we gonna talk about that. So when you did, yeah, we gonna talk about that. So how you been, yeah, we gonna talk about that. And in that moment, I guess it kind of speaks more to what you were saying is, well, are you just being a puppet? In other words, you just listen to everything your leader says. Yep, I'm gonna do it. Yep, because I'm gonna just do that, and just whatever he tells me to do, I'm just gonna do that, and hopefully that'll get through. Well, that doesn't work, because the knowledge and the discernment, the wisdom, if you will, is in the understanding of what the Lord has for you. For at least for what I understand, is what He has for me, and what He has for me is a list of not everything, but pretty much a list of the things that He wants me to work on, and this is how you're going to work on it, and this is where you're going to submit and admit to your faults, your issues, and what was wrong, and then you're going to in your own way show me, explain, and execute how you could have done better. And then in that, as you do that, this is not just you doing it because I said do it. This is you doing it because this is how you get to where I've shown you you need to go.
All right, because it's 8:15, this is where I'm going to wrap it up at. It is, isn't it? All right,
Wow.
So this is where we're going to wrap up at. We're going to wrap it up just by literally addressing what you just stated.
Okay.
I love that when we get into this place that Donald Lawrence wrote a song that every once in a while I have to listen to. Mm-hmm. It says, while I was in the spirit, God showed me some things. He explained some things. He pointed out some things that I needed to know. And then he said, if you need to know God's plan for your life, get in the spirit and let the Lord minister to you. I quote those lyrics because when we get into this place where we are experiencing our Garden of Gethsemane, it is good that we are able to hear what the Lord is saying, because in His presence, there is correction. There is chastisement. Mm-hmm. And if there isn't, you're not in His presence. Mm-hmm. You're somewhere. And it's not as if there isn't any feel goods in his presence, because there is still praise in his presence, especially when he gets the glory out of who you are. But here's what I submit to us tonight. We cannot gather information and think that just gathering information on ourselves is what's going to take us to the next level. We cannot put ourselves on a spiritual journey and continuously use carnality thinking that we are going to go to the next level. Thinking that we are going to grow within our own understanding.
We define carnality.
Listen as it comes out. I got you. We cannot allow ourselves to depend on our own understanding. We can't depend on how we think that the Lord is telling us to correct a situation based on our vocabulary and understanding of how he works. When we get in the spirit to allow the Lord to minister to us, when we're in the Garden of Gethsemane, when we're in our gardens, yes, he's going to show you some things. And again, you cannot experience the full crushing until you take what you see into prayer. It all goes back to this whole saying that we've had for the past few months about developing a culture of prayer. We're thinking about things, we're coming up with ideas, we're making evaluations, we're making observations, but even Christ fell on his face into total submission to the Heavenly Father and began to pray about his cup. What I'm hearing, and this is, I'm speaking kingdom now. What I'm hearing is we are praying about how we look. We're praying about what we want. We're not praying about the cup. We're praying about outcomes that we are thinking about. But we're not praying about God's will for this cup. What is this cup? This cup is your sufferings. It is your divine judgment. This cup is what's making you in this crushing. But we're not praying about these things because we're praying about how we're going to look when we come out of here. Oh, when I get out this garden, they're going to see this on me. I'm going to prophesy like this. I'm going to sing praise and worship like this.
Nah, that's funny.
And I'm going to lay hands like never before.
I'm weak.
But what about when we get into the garden of the crushing and God shows us ourselves and we then say, Father, forgive me for how I've even thought about your will, because for some reason I forgot that your thoughts are not my thoughts. For some reason, God, I don't even know how it slipped my mind, but I forgot that your ways, like my ways are not your ways. At some point, we should turn into repentant vessels in the midst of, because you can't be crushed without the submission to the process. You are not submitted to the process if you aren't repentant about your humanity. You cannot submit to a process until you give over your will to the will of God. And when we are looking for outcomes such as how we look and how we sound, what we're getting in return, that's where carnality is sitting at. That's where we get blinded. But when we say, God, not my vision, but yours. Not my will, but yours. Not my want for this process, but your will be done. That's how we embrace the presence of God. That's how we submit in his presence. And that's where we pray about our cup and our process. You had a question, I'm gonna pray us out. We're actually here at takeaways. I'm gonna keep it what we generally do. So that
I'm gonna figure out my question.
it's gonna be like one of those after study questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You got some people in the room that you can definitely do that with too. All right. what's our any feedback takeaway? Pastor Wesley, that's my good brother out in Cove Gap, Pennsylvania. God bless you. He said, I think many of us have blurred view of the garden. Many have taken the crushing so personally that we believe we are being buried versus being planted. Cemeteries are for burial. Gardens are for growing.
Yes. There we go.
Come on here, Pastor West.
Come on, Pastor.
I love it. I totally agree. Totally agree. What other takeaways do we have for tonight? And I will share that what we can do, again, in our what's the name, you can put a question on here if you have one, and we'll respond, or you can send a question to my pastor email. I'll respond to it as well. Any other takeaways?
I mean, my stuff always go back into the nothing. And I mean, you know, I add what I watch on TV or music that I hear that I've heard before because I listen to Jesus now. But just here, you ain't got to turn on me. It's the end.
Look, she ready.
Nah, yeah, you know. Okay, but for real, just again listening to man's over here. Immediately when like asking the question of, you know, what are you doing in the like when you're in the moment, like what are you supposed to be doing? Me being who I am, I immediately thought of the series of Avatar. I know, wow, and Bria, why did you get Avatar? And talking about why you want to do this? Talking about Avatar? Hey, how y'all doing? So I immediately thought about the little, you know, cartoon series Avatar. And the Avatar, when he was like in his most like confused state, like he's like, I'm supposed to be the Avatar, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be saving the world. All that kind of stuff. He was told like in order for him to like actually get to know his real purpose and gain the strength, like what is it that how do you be the Avatar? He had to like go into this place inside of him and actually connect with the avatars before him. In order for him to do that, he had to go into this mode. So he would like legit like go into like, which is weird. He would always go, okay. He would go into like these little places. No, for real. Okay, whatever. He would go into these little places where like it was almost like a garden or something like that. You watched Avatar before. Okay, thank you. Anybody.
Oh, I knew he was.
And
right.
he would like sit down like in these little modes, you know, like the people. And then like, cause like they were Buddhists, wasn't they? Something like that. And yeah, and he would like go into this meditation state and like he would like his little arrow in his head and stuff, like go into the blue color, and he would like legit just like be sitting there and like he would literally go into this garden in his mind. And like while he was in there, he was like only having a conversation with whatever, like whether it be the whatever avatar it was that he was going to go meet in that moment. And he would literally have like this so deep conversation with that specific avatar, and like they would give him wisdom and guidance, and like he would literally be in there like to the point where like everything that was going on around him, he had no like
involvement of it.
Nothing. He was there, and everybody else was like aware and like would try to get him out of it, but like only he could pull himself out of it. Like nobody else could get him out of that state. Like he would be so in tune with that, and it would literally be only him and the avatar interacting with each other. And like it would be sometimes where the previous avatar had to tell him like, okay, like look, it's stuff going on around now. You need to get out of this state and go take care of business. So like that's what I thought about.
I hear you, Lord. I love it. I love it.
Confirmation.
When
I'm telling you, when I was watching it, maybe I was just like, nah. Okay, I'll see the little.
I feel like I should have just said, "What are you doing in the garden?" Well, I'm having a conversation. That's what I'm doing. We're having a conversation.
That's it.
I'm
Like, for real,
praying.
listen,
He's telling me about what I just prayed.
No,
right.
no distractions. I can't be
All
distracted.
right.
I need to.
Because you just attacked, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
3 out of 5 of my points. And I was just like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? But what are
No
you, we're having a
distractions, baby.
conversation.
Conversation.
A real
I'm
conversation.
focused. I don't want to hear nothing else that's going on around me. I'm in tune with my God, my spiritual being. Like, that's
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
I'm talking
I'm
like
gonna take away
you'll be well
correlations, takeaways.
I love it.
be in the midst of the exercise, because when I'm not in prayer, in that moment while I'm exercising, I am listening to a certain or song, and the moment I get to turn it off, just because what he just said, I want to bring that. So look, we can talk about that. So,
All right. All right.
but
Absolutely.
I didn't want to go into all the details, you know.
I get it. I'm just making sure that we're all connected. Hey, Facebook family, E-family, God bless you. Faith Impact Church, family and friends, I love you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're about to pray and go down from this place. I am so glad that you were able to join us. What we do for Bible study is really have Bible discussion. We like to make sure that we are pretty much all on track, and we are able to articulate our thoughts, be able to ask questions in the moment, so that we're able to grow and be all of who God has created us to be. So, as we are striving to our purpose, again, thank you so much for joining us here as we are exalting Christ and equipping believers and engaging the world through ministry. We
Amen.
pray that your lives are blessed. Blessings be to you. And if you have questions or what have you, definitely send us an email or reply to this, and one of our team members will get back out to you. And if you have prayer requests, please send that to us, because we believe that prayer works at Faith Impact Church. God bless you.